Today we're going to be taking a look at this Havit keyboard that I found on Amazon somewhere around the $40 price point. Maybe it was 48. Wow, that looks really washed out in the camera. Let me tilt it a little bit that way, a little out of the light, that way you can see it. Anyway, I picked this up because I've started to gain an affinity for mechanical keyboards, and there were some things about this that I liked, some things that I didn't like. So I'll tell you why I picked it up. Number one, because it was in fact around that $40 price point, and that is the lower end of the price of prices for mechanical keyboards. And so I thought to myself, this is probably a pretty good deal. Let's go ahead and get it. The other reason I picked it up is because of the Numpad right here. I do a lot of spreadsheet work for my job, and I work with, a lot of numbers. And so having a mechanical keyboard that has a numpad is a really big deal for me because I work with those numbers all of the time. And I liked the fact that we have this kind of smaller profile. I mean, it's essentially a TKL, right? A 10 keyless keyboard, but you don't have the numpad off to the side instead of having like the home and the insert and the delete key and stuff like that on the keyboard right here. You just skip that entirely and you just put the numpad right there. And so I thought, I like that design. I kind of like that layout. Let's go ahead and give that a shot. See if that helps with space, being able to move the mouse around while still being able to, work with the spreadsheets and stuff that I do. So that's why I picked it up. I liked the overall design. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't quite as useful as I thought. See, I use the enter key a lot for my spreadsheet work, and the enter key is usually off over here, and it took a little bit of getting used to have it right here. Now, it's not that big of a deal having that enter key and the backspace key right there. That has actually been pretty useful, but I had a hard time because I just kept wanting to hit it with my pinky, and it wasn't there to hit it with my pinky. The other thing that wasn't quite as useful is that usually the other keys up around the keyboard or up around the numpad are like the plus and the minus and the star and the equal sign and whatnot. Maybe not the equal sign, but you have a couple of other keys right there. And now in order to hit the plus sign, I have to do shift plus, which I realize still isn't that far of a leap, but it is still not quite as fast as just hitting it with my pinky, or two keystrokes for minus, or two keystrokes for the star, and that's way over there, right, if I'm going to continue to do it one-handed. And so I just took a little bit more getting used to than I thought, and it could probably be useful if I stuck with it, but that leads me to something else that I didn't really like about this keyboard, and that is that it's pretty scratchy, and then some of the keys rattle too. So I'll give you a test right here. I actually posted a short of this not too long ago, but this is just the space bar. I'm not even typing it, like I'm not even pushing it. I'm just gonna like tap it. Right, and that's not even going down all the way. It's kind of noisy. So the stabilizers just aren't quite as good as I hoped they would be, and maybe you couldn't hear that super well in the audio, and I apologize for that if that's the case. And then the other thing is these feel a little bit scratchy. I also have a Keychron keyboard, and these are just a little bit scratchy, which kind of makes it a little bit annoying to type on, but that part wasn't too bad. The thing that I didn't like about it is that I feel like the springs are too strong inside the switch, and so it took more force to actually like press the key down. And maybe that's just, I'm not a like super big pro when it comes to mechanical keyboards. I'm still a little bit new, and maybe that's a lubing problem or something like that. But I just found that it wasn't great to type on because my fingers would get exhausted from having to push down so hard. And when I compare that to any other keyboard that I'm using, where it's a much lighter experience to type on, I just found that my fingers would get really tired. And so halfway through the day, I'd have to switch keyboards to something that wasn't quite as rough to type on, like wasn't quite as much of a huge actuation force. It does have these little feet which extend the keyboard up a little bit. I did like the fact that they have those. Not all keyboards have that. Now this cable, some people are really big on the cables. I don't really mind as far as cables go. I'm not too picky, but this cable is in fact attached to the keyboard, so you can't unplug it like a lot of USB-C cables are. And then this cable is not braided. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of shiny. It's just a very rubbery, cable. So I guess you kind of get what you pay for with this one. They're not like the switches aren't really lubed. The stabilizers are a little bit rattly. You don't get a braided cable that can disconnect. It is wired. It's not wireless. And so overall, I think you just kind of get what you pay for. The last thing that I wanted to mention is I think layout matters, right? Which is why I was going for this Numpad here. And one of the things that I don't like about this specific layout is there is no num lock, or not num lock. There's no, well, frankly, there aren't any locks on here at all, right? But there's the num lock. There's no function lock. Golly, that's what I was trying to say. There's no function lock. So every time I wanted to do, like volume up or volume down or skip or use any of these media keys up here, everything was a 2-button press, right? And I just think that, it matters. It matters to have a good layout. And this layout just wasn't as useful as I was hoping it was going to be. And so that's kind of a bummer. Other than that, the aesthetic was kind of cool. If you don't like this like super bright, colorful one, they do have just a black and orange one. And so overall, I think like the design is still kind of cool. Maybe I would get used to using the numpad right here instead of off to the side with the other keys off to the right of it. Maybe I'd get used to that, but my fingers just get tired using this keyboard. And so I don't think I'll have the chance to get used to the layout of this keyboard. And I don't like that it doesn't have a function lock. I use my media keys more than I use my function keys. And so I just don't think that was a good move. I think it would have been better to have it be the reverse, that you have, your media keys be the default, and then you have to press the function in order to have the F keys, be useful and whatnot. So there you have it. If you're low on a budget and you want to get into mechanical keyboards, this is probably better than some of the stuff you'll find out there, like some of those cheap gaming keyboards. This is probably better as far as productivity goes. And you could probably mod this, add some tape to it and make it a little bit quieter, some foam to it to make it quieter. You could lube the switches and the stabs if you wanted to and make that a better experience. And or maybe just replace the switches entirely, although I don't think it's hot swappable. So there's that. Anyway, that's my review of the Havit mechanical keyboard. Let me know what you think, if you ended up buying it, and what your thoughts are down below, because this could just be something that, maybe it differs from unit to unit. I want to know your experience. So let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.